Hello, everybody. This is Brian Kessler from the CPAguide.com, and this is episode 5 of the CPA Guide podcast. So some of you may notice that my voice sounds a little bit different. Based on some feedback that I got, I decided to buy a much nicer microphone. So I'm no longer using the little $30 USB microphone that I was using before. This is the real deal. So I'm hoping that my voice quality sounds a lot better and that my voice sounds a lot smoother. Today's episode is going to be an in-between episode, as I'll call it. It's going to be between 5 and 10 minutes, and it's going to kind of piggyback off of a blog article that I just released on my website today. Today's topic is how to reduce your study time by 225 hours. So many of you are probably thinking, well, that just sounds too good to be true. Well, to be honest, I did it, and I will share in detail how I did it. So let's get to it.
The CPA Guide.
The CPAguide.com.
Let's learn how to dominate the CPA exam together. And here is your host and CPA Guide, Brian Kessler. Because if he can pass the CPA exam, anyone can.
Okay, so how in the world did I cut my study time by 225 hours? Well, as many of you know from my previous podcast episodes and just on my blog, I treated the CPA exam like a college test. So this meant I was going through the lectures, highlighting like a complete robot, and then I'd read through the text again and then make any notes on important concepts that I saw, and then on top of that even make my own flashcards. So I was literally trying to memorize the entire textbook for each and every section that I was taking for the CPA exam. And for most of us in college, this was no problem, but that was because the tests were much less broad and we were only having to memorize a couple chapters instead of an entire textbook. You need to realize off the bat that the CPA exam is a beast of an exam. It's unlike anything you've ever done before, and it requires study tactics unlike anything you've had to perform before. So after I had failed my fourth part of the CPA exam, I really had this moment of clarity where I decided that the CPA exam was no joke and that I was going to have to drastically change my study method if I was going to be successful. So the first thing that I changed was that I just threw out watching lectures. I figured out that I don't learn by watching lectures. It was a waste of my time, and that it was just 3 or 4 hours of me sitting there and essentially not doing anything, because I am not an auditory learner. I don't learn by sitting in class. I have to go home, read the text, teach myself all the concepts, and then if I do have any questions, then I have to ask somebody. But 95% of the material I'm able to teach myself. So for me, it just made sense to just skip watching the lectures. It added no value to my study time, and the 20 to 30 hours per section that I normally spent watching lectures, I then devoted to performing multiple choice questions, understanding why I was getting those multiple choice questions wrong, and then just teaching myself the material. So that was the first major decision that I made. The second was that I decided to buy flashcards from one of the top CPA review course companies. So instead of making my own flashcards, taking notes of the key concepts that I thought were important, I let somebody else do all of that for me. So the importance of this is that the top CPA review course companies, they get paid to know what's going to be on the CPA exam. So they're going to pinpoint the key concepts that are most likely to be tested and then give them to you. The importance of this is that it takes the guessing game out of it for you, because I would go through a section and then I'd find something that I thought probably would be a key concept, but I didn't really know for sure. So I let the review course companies help me, and it saved me approximately 25 hours. I mean, it was a huge time saver to just buy pre-made flashcards and just go through them every single day. So the third tip that I used or decided to change was that I looked at my analytics for the review course that I was using, and I saw that I was spending between 5 and 6 to even 7 minutes on average per multiple choice question. So this, for one, it's terrible for preparing to sit for the CPA exam, because 3.5 hours to 4 hours, it might sound like a long time to sit there and take one exam, but the time flies by. So you need to be as efficient as possible as you're sitting there taking your 90 multiple choice questions. So get into the habit now of spending between preferably 2 to 4 minutes per multiple choice question. Not only will this help you stay efficient, but it will remove the spinning of your wheels as you're trying to sit there and figure something out on your own, when really you should just be flagging that question, moving on, and then come back to it later, go back to the text, and teach yourself that particular concept. So it does you no good at all to spend more than 3 to 4 minutes on a multiple choice question, because in reality, to be fully prepared to sit for the CPA exam, you need to get through at least 1,000 to 1,500 practice questions. And at least that's what I had to do. So when you think about it, if you can shave even just 1 minute off the average time of a multiple choice question, that's going to equate to 100 hours total saved, or 25 hours per section if you perform 1,500 practice questions. And the best part is that every single minute that you save, you can either be spending additional reading or flashcards, or even spending that time with people that you care about. So these are all just things to keep in mind before and while you're studying for the CPA exam. So if you're curious about filling in some more details about things that I did, I wrote this article on my blog, which the URL is thecpaguyde.com/session005.html. Again, that's session, SESSION 005.html. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. Let me know if these are effective tips, if they work for you. And again, these tips are just what works for me. And I wouldn't share them if I didn't know that they worked for me. Again, let's help each other out. Share your tips in the comment section on my blog article, and I'd love to hear from you. So some homework for you is just take a step back. Do you see any inefficiencies or ineffective study activities that you are performing? Well, maybe you should cut them out. The review courses today, they try to cater to as many different types of people as possible, but just remember, you are unique. You learn different than anybody else out there. So please don't be afraid to do what I did and think outside the box. And believe me, the results can be amazing. Once I implemented these tips, my scores jumped from 5 to 15 points. So it really gave me what I needed to pass the CPA exam. So best of luck to you. I really hope that you can take these tips to heart, and not necessarily my tips, but just the ability to look at how you study and just to find some inefficiencies and ineffective things that you're doing, and just help you make some changes so that you can spend time with the people that you care about. Because that's why I'm here, and I hope that that's why you're listening, so that you can hear from my experience and from somebody who's been there and done that. And I know the results can be amazing for you. So best of luck as you study, and keep it up.
If you want more of the CPA Guide podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, or you can go to thecpaguide.com for even more great content about how to pass the CPA exam.
This podcast is only for general advice. It should not be construed as accounting, legal, or any other professional advice. Your particular situation is fact dependent, and you are recommended to seek the help of a competent professional.